We are back with another episode of From the Raptors. Sam and I are here recording on Thursday, September 1st, in the dead of summer. Nothing to talk about, but we found stuff. You know, we're here weekly, every week for you. And do you want to start with the non-Celtics news because it's breaking, or do you want to start Celtics, put the Donovan Mitchell?
No, we can do the breaking news.
All right, breaking news. Donovan Mitchell is in the Eastern Conference, Sam. More talent in the East. I'm sure you're thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't love that, right? I have been complaining all summer. All these guys are coming over East, and you don't want to deal with that, right? It feels like the conference is already deep enough. Now you've got him in here, and he went to Cleveland, which is really shaping up to be a good team. They'll be interesting to watch. And I mean, good for them. They don't have LeBron on their team. They're going to be good for the first time in who knows how long. I'm happy it's not the Knicks. I love that. I mean, geez, that franchise can kick rocks, dude. Their fans are the worst. They're all entitled. I am thrilled that they screwed up that trade. I mean, they definitely had it. They could have had him. Obviously, that's why you were hearing reports. Maybe it was leaks. I don't know. But yeah. Ainge said he had mystery teams lined up there, and you might have seen one today, right? Nobody knew anything about the Cavs. And
they
it feels
were sprinkled in there, but they were okay. Crazy.
But it feels like more often than not, this is how it happens, right? It's a team you don't hear anything about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the package. In my opinion, I think this is the best package they could have gotten outside of anything involving RJ Barrett. I think that was probably the top of the top. I think Tyler Hero was next, and then if those two weren't on the table, a Colin Sexton package is probably next up. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I think that's what I believe. Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, their rookie Ochai Agbaji. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. And then 3 unprotected firsts, 2 pick swaps. Did they overpay for Donovan Mitchell, Sam?
I think both sides are good with that. Okay. I think Mitchell will be a good piece for them. It doesn't feel like they gave up anything that was super important to their success last season, right? Because Sexton was out the whole season. That team still pushed and got in the play-in, and in the back half of that season were pretty decent. They brought in Mitchell on top of that. And Utah gets back Sexton, who's going to be a solid piece for them. They extended him. They brought in Markkanen, who's solid. I mean, I think he kind of sucks. He was sucky in that game against the Nets. But
he's all right.
They brought in so many picks from both those guys they got rid of. They're going to be set up for years.
Yeah, I have the haul here. I need to find the list. I should have bookmarked it, but I think, was it Legion Hoops that tweeted it out? Somebody tweeted out everything that they got back. Yeah. The Jazz turned Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell into Colin Sexton, Malik Beasley, Leandro Bolmaro, Ochai Agbaji, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, Lauri Markkanen, Talon Horton-Tucker, Stanley Johnson, 7 first-round picks and 3 pick swaps.
That's a lot.
They
crazy. Have a lot to pick from to go forward, right? They're not stuck.
And they're not done.
Done. Yeah, they still have Mike Conley to unload. They still have Bogdanovich to unload.
Jordan
Who
Clarkson.
Else is? Clarkson is on that team
Rudy
that they
Gay
need to unload if they want.
Malik Beasley if they want. Yep. Plenty of pieces to move. They're interesting. My question now is, from a Celtics perspective, all that really matters is that Donovan Mitchell is now in the Eastern Conference, a starting lineup of presumably Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen with Karis LeVert off the bench, Ricky Rubio off the bench. Where does that put them in the East? In your eyes? I have a list next to me. I tiered out. I put the Eastern Conference in tiers, but I'm curious to see what you think first before.
Probably third or fourth. Now, I lean towards the tiers more than that. I mean, that team was decent last year, and they're only going to get better. They have Mobley, who's going to be better this season. Garland will probably improve on his season last season. They brought in Mitchell. Allen is solid for them too. I mean, they've got decent depth. They should be a good team. They have star power.
I agree with you. And at face value, I also think that should be a top 4 team. But then I started putting them into tiers. My current tiers are, I think Milwaukee and Boston are S tier. I think they're the top teams in the East. I don't think it's that close. I think those two are going to run the East. After that, I have a tier with 5 different teams. Philly, Brooklyn, Miami, Toronto, Cleveland. I think that's the next tier. Obviously, it goes up and down. I think Toronto and Miami are probably hovering around the lower end of that tier, but they could either, one developmental season from Scotty Barnes or, the Miami Heat just doing Miami Heat things elevates them to the top because that's just how it works, right? Brooklyn obviously depends on Kyrie and Ben Simmons, but they have the talent. Philadelphia has the talent, right? So the crazy part about it, I just named 7 teams. One of those 7 teams is going to be in the play-in. Like Toronto or Brooklyn or Miami or Philly or
Probably
Cleveland or Boston or Milwaukee. You think so? I don't think so.
Who do you think it's going to be? Out of those teams,
I think I'd hedge my bets on Brooklyn, Miami, or Cleveland being in the play-in.
That's fair. I think Brooklyn's going to be better than people think they are, just because I think those guys are all going to have some kind of chip on their shoulder. They've all been ridiculed and dragged through the coals over the last year and a half. The
crazy thing about it, I think all 5 of those teams in the mid-tier could win 50 games. Like, I'm not saying they will win 50 games, but they have like the talent to win 50 games. And we're talking about a team that's good enough to win 50 games, potentially being in the play-in. And then after that, you look at, I didn't even say Chicago or Atlanta. They're obviously a tier below, but they have talent, right? I know you're not as high on Chicago, but Atlanta just traded for DeJounte Murray. They're there. Then you look at tier below that and you're talking Knicks Wizards, which is like, you're starting to get, okay, we're talking scraping together a play-in season. And I said this on the other podcast I host, the Simone NBA show. The Knicks aren't a playoff team. Like, I don't know, like, if they wanted to be a playoff team, they had to trade for Donovan Mitchell. And now that they didn't, they are not a playoff team. Like, in my opinion, objectively speaking, they are not a playoff team. They're going to be fighting with the Wizards and the Pistons and the Hornets for the 10th seed in the East. That's their ceiling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I love that Pistons team, man.
They're fun.
Take the over on their wins. It's like almost 30. That team was a real pain in the ass last year. They were a real pain in the ass that second half of the year, and they got better. I mean, they did dump Grant. They lost Grant over to Portland, but they brought
internal
they drafted Ivy, and they got
Cade's gonna get better.
Cade's gonna get better. They'll be an interesting team to watch. Yeah.
So what would your tiers in the East be then? I just gave you mine. What would you put them like? And to round it out, I had Detroit and Charlotte in the same tier, and then below that I had Indy and Orlando because okay. I mean, I feel like it's pretty basic. But...
So I have Milwaukee and Boston at the top.
Yep.
I think you got to have Cleveland, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Miami in that second tier, I guess. Miami's on the. I don't know. Miami always gets like slighted.
They do. That's what I'm saying. They're always underlooked.
So I'll put them in the second tier, and then after that, let's see. You've got Toronto. You've got. Oh Jesus, am I missing somebody?
Chicago and Atlanta would be the next.
Yeah.
So you're putting Toronto and Atlanta in the same tier.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Chicago? Are they in the same one? Or are they below?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Are Chicago below or above Atlanta and Toronto? Or
they're in the same.
Same. Okay. Okay. And then after that, you're talking New York, Washington, Detroit, Charlotte.
I'd say New York, Washington, Charlotte are all in the same tier. Detroit's kind of in a tier alone below them because I don't think they're like bottom of the barrel bad, and I don't think they're going to be tanking.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if they're as good as those teams. Maybe Charlotte's in the same tier as Detroit. I'm not positive.
That's what I had, just because of the Miles Bridges situation.
But that's true. But I don't know. Charlotte do anything this off? Did they bring in a big guy? I know Harold's got that.
They drafted one.
Well, no, he doesn't. He's not. He's been expunged.
They drafted Mark Williams out of Duke. They kind of. I said this. I don't know if I wrote this or I said this somewhere. Even though they don't have like a starting caliber center, they kind of have a logjam at center, which is very weird because they have Mason Plumlee. They also have Mark Williams. They also have Kai Jones. They also have Nick Richards. They also have JT Thor. So they have like 5 centers who they probably need to, outside of Mason Plumlee, probably need developmental minutes, but like you can't, but none of them are like starting quality yet. I think Mark Williams will start by like December or something, but yeah, Charlotte's a mess now. Okay.
And then you've got those bottom barrel Pacers, Magic. Even though I'm not sold that Orlando's going to be horrible. I think they're kind of done tanking too.
Someone has to be bad though. No, someone's got to be bad.
Somebody has to be bad, but I have a feeling you're going to see like a failure team this year.
Mm-hmm. Who?
Like, well, the Knicks. But in all seriousness, like I do think like I don't know, people kind of think Charlotte's going to be decent, like me. Like I'm like I put them in the same tier as those other teams. Like I think they could bottom out. Atlanta could fail. Jesus, man, this is tough. I mean, that Washington, I think that Washington team kind of sucks, but at the same time, like they're all right. Like they're not as sucky as the other teams, but I think it's very possible that they underachieve.
I think it's just as possible they overachieve though, and I think it hinges on Porzingis' health. I mean, that's not a hot take.
Well, that's all fair because I mean that tier that we both kind of have them in is like a wild card tier. You don't know.
Yeah,
you're certain that Milwaukee and Boston are going to be killers. Those other 4 teams behind them are pretty solid too. That they could still win. They're no joke. And then after that, it kind of falls off a bit. Those teams are kind of newly constructed. Atlanta, Chicago had last year, but injuries. And then you have that Cleveland. Oh, no. Cleveland.
You put Toronto.
Toronto. I don't know. I don't care for Toronto. They haven't done anything crazy.
I just
think Scotty Barnes is good. But how good is everybody else? Like, how much better are those guys around Scotty Barnes getting? Besides him, like, who's really, like, taking a leap?
Scotty Barnes going to take a leap. I think Siakam's still probably getting better. I think he's at his peak. I think
wasn't it funny when he was like real bad for a year and he was really horrible in the playoffs against the Celtics too.
He was bad.
He was one of my favorites. Him and Marcus Gasol were real good. I love those guys.
Siakam's cool. He got better too. He brought it back season. I'm thinking through their roster. Gary Trent's still there. OG Anunoby's still there. They've got a good core. I'm higher on Toronto than you are, but yeah. So Cleveland, real deal now though. They're scary. My hot take, and this is like, I guess you could call them, the term intrusive thoughts, where it's wrong, but you can't stop thinking about it. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's a 3-time All-Star. He's a great player, phenomenal. He's better than Colin Sexton, without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
How much worse would those Jazz teams have been if Colin Sexton was on the team instead of Donovan Mitchell?
Well, the problem with that question is, the regular season, they'd probably take a hit, but they never really had any real playoff success. They didn't go anywhere. So probably at the end of the day, you wouldn't remember them any differently. But I think Donovan Mitchell's a much better player, and I don't think he really had much offensive help in the playoffs. Now he's going to be playing with Garland, and he's going to have Mobley there. He's going to have a little bit more leeway. I'm sorry, but Gobert's he's a role player, dude. He's real good at being a role player.
That's foolish.
He is not. If you have nobody on your team, you put Gobert on your team's not going to be anything.
The defense is going to be phenomenal.
He'll be fine.
Rudy Gobert on the team equals a top 10 defense.
If you put Gobert on the Celtics, their defense would take a hit.
Sure. Defensive systems, and they would work around Gobert.
I'm sure they would.
Actually, no. I'm gonna completely disagree with that. Sure, he wouldn't be able to guard the perimeter as well, but having him as the anchor and Robert Williams being the free safety, they would still be great. I'd still think they'd be like.
No, I disagree, because the difference between him in your Jesus Christ, Sam, scenario, Al Horford is the one getting replaced, right?
I know. I said
no. So he's going to get torched on the perimeter. And I know you did mention that. You didn't ignore it. But, have you seen that guy try and guard? He's not, kind of bad. He's, real bad on the perimeter.
Oh, we're going to start seeing that in the next couple of years, because I know Al's a good perimeter defender, but he's 36. We
haven't seen it yet. So right now, today, it's not true. Once you start seeing that, sure, maybe. But right now and today, and if you want to use last year, which is the most recent we have as a sample size, he was a huge part of that team's success in the playoffs. He was guarding Giannis. He was picking up Giannis.
He's great.
He had to play minutes guarding these guys that can play on the perimeter. Yeah, Giannis, a 3-point sharpshooter on the perimeter. Yes, Sam, I know. But in all seriousness, he had to be serviceable at that, and he was probably above that at exceeding expectations. He was a fantastic defender all around. And he fits, like you said, system. He fits well. Gobert, he's just not. Minnesota overpaid for Gobert. Will Gobert fit in Minnesota? Yeah. Maybe. Probably will. Makes it easier on Towns.
There are defensive systems. Like, I understand the thought process of Gobert wouldn't fit well in Boston's system, which I understand to a degree, and I understand he would get cooked in the perimeter. But there's plenty of defensive systems out there that work perfectly with Gobert, and not like Gobert is gotten to the point where he's like ridiculously underrated for some reason, in my opinion. I know you don't like him, but
I don't know.
That's where I'm at.
He's not like special to me. I
think he absolutely
let me.
is.
He's not like a player you put on your team, and your team is going to be a playoff team.
Okay. I also think you overvalue that because there's maybe 10 of those in the NBA.
No.
Yes.
Well, he's not going to like. I can't get the words out.
I understand what you're saying.
He's not a 1. He's not a 2.
Carry a team to the playoffs.
He's probably not a 3. He's probably a 4.
I think he's not going to carry a team to the playoffs. He needs a solid team around him. Yes, but everybody does. And I think it's just, I think it's short-sighted to think of things in terms of points, because effectively that's what you're doing. In my opinion, you're thinking things. He doesn't score points. He's not going to carry a team.
I said he's a role player, and you disagreed. His role is to play defense and be an anchor. Now, there are great players through NBA history.
Donovan Mitchell's role is to score the ball.
But he's also creating. He's creating shots. It's not just scoring. He's not Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's job is to just score the ball off the bench.
Donovan Mitchell is to offense what Rudy Gobert is to defense, and Donovan Mitchell's star, but Rudy Gobert's not. That's just disregarding defense, and that's what I hear. That's what's like. That's what I'm getting from this.
Guys that play both sides of the ball. Now, listen. I know Donovan Mitchell is no elite defender. However, if you are starting a team from scratch, a guy that plays a extreme role on offense and isn't a great defender is more valuable than a guy that just is not just a great defender. He's limited defensively, but he excels in one area, which is acceptable for a guy in his position. He's a center. He's 7 feet tall. What do you want him to do? But at the end of the day, he's a role player. That's what he does. And for him to be effective, that team has to be good.
Sure.
If Rudy Gobert got traded to the Cavs, we would not be sitting here talking about how great the Cavs are going to be.
That I don't agree with the exact comparison because
it's not fair because Allen's on the team. But
yeah,
when he was traded to the Timberwolves,
if you replace Rudy Gobert,
go, oh my God, the Timberwolves are going to be the greatest.
I don't think the Cavs are going to be the greatest. I think the Timberwolves and the Cavs will be around the same level next year.
Okay, that was my next question. Where do you think they're going to be?
I think, if anything, I think the Timberwolves will be better than the Cavs.
All right. Well, we'll see.
That can be our bet throughout the season. We'll monitor the Timberwolves and the Cavs.
Sure. It's going to be an interesting.
I will say though,
to be honest with you, when those two teams play each other, that's going to be like one of those national games that, like, it's like, Jesus, I don't know, like kind of when Ray Allen came back to Boston because like there was beef there, but it's different because neither one of them are on the Jazz. You know what I'm trying to say? They don't like each other. Yeah. Mitchell does not like him.
Yeah, this is anything but a Celtics podcast at this point. But I do have a question for you. What are your thoughts on Jarrett Allen?
He's fine. He's like the same as Gobert. Gobert's better at what Allen does than Allen.
Okay.
He's a role player.
Sure. He was an all-star.
Yeah. So was Gobert. But he's still a role player. Draymond's a role player.
All right. We're going down a rabbit hole.
Draymond's an excellent player, but he's still a role player. Especially last year, he's a role player. In his prime, maybe he's a third. Especially on that 60-win team.
The term role player is like, it's being thrown around.
It's very wide, but I don't know. I understand what you're saying because technically everybody's got a role.
Yeah. It's tough.
Was it Draymond or Klay Thompson that said it? Besides like two guys, everybody's just a role player.
Draymond, that was in his speech. Yeah. He said there's two guys on the team that can do whatever they want. Everybody else is a role player. Which, sure.
It's true.
My point is your perspective of if you put them on a team, they'll make the playoffs. There's like 10 guys in the NBA that can do that.
That's fair. That's fair. But there's also guys that like success follows them. And I don't know if that's only 10 people.
I think so.
Or they've been I don't know.
Well, I also think it's tough to
say.
say success follows them because usually when players that are good get traded, they get traded to better teams, right? So like the success that's following them is also them just being on a better team, which I assume is what will happen with both these guys. Anyways, long-winded point that I didn't even get to because we got into a different conversation. My whole intrusive thoughts moment came when I was thinking, how much better is Donovan Mitchell than Colin Sexton? He's better. This isn't me saying they're the same, but like. Sam, what are Colin Sexton's averages? Like if you had to put a stat line next to the name Colin Sexton, what would you assume?
Probably gives you like 22 points a game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, something like that.
Yeah, that's about right. His best average is 24 points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shot 47.5%
percentages.
Yeah, 47.5% from the field, 37% from 3.
Donovan Mitchell's probably very similar to that. I'm not disputing it, but the difference is
this isn't me arguing against
the playoffs.
Yes, and this is
if you plug and played, it would probably work out similarly. But I still think they'd Jesus Christ take a hit in the regular season. I think they would win less games.
I agree with you. I think Donovan Mitchell's a better player, but is he Lauri Markkanen, rookie Ochai Agbaji, 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps better?
The picks are what kind of swings the bounds for me. I mean, I think Markkanen kind of sucks.
I don't think if he
didn't suck, he wouldn't be bouncing around.
He's bounced. What do you mean bouncing around? He went 2 teams. He's played for 2 teams.
He played in Minnesota, no? Or did they trade him? They traded him before he played.
Yeah, he was drafted by Minnesota. Draft day trade. He was the draft day trade for Jimmy Butler.
Well, he's on his 3rd team now.
2nd.
3rd.
Oh, Jazz are 3rd. Yeah, sure.
He was a free agent last summer. Nobody signed him till like now. Like
he had a solid season. He was a part of their triple big lineup.
One of the few games I watched, he was horrible. So there's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. He was horrible in that play-in game, and I really wanted them to win because I didn't want the Celtics to have the risk of playing the Nets, and they lost. So he got the blame for me.
Fair enough. My point is, I don't know that I can sit here and tell you with a straight face that Donovan Mitchell is 3 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, Lauri Markkanen, and Ochai Agbaji better than Colin Sexton. I don't think he is.
But they got more for Gobert. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
They got a whole Gobert.
Yeah.
So that
is crazy.
That trade is like, it's almost like when like the new TV deal comes and everybody starts making more money, and then you're like, I'm like, well, that guy shouldn't make $40 million or whatever, because that's who I am. And then like everyone's making that much money because that's the norm. Like that trade like broke trades, because then the Durant situation got inflated, right? They were like, well, shit, they got that for Gobert, then we got to get something for Durant. And now we're looking at the Mitchell trade, and you're saying those picks are a lot, but compared to Gobert, I mean, they didn't get as much from Mitchell. They got better actual players, like Sexton's the best player that they got this summer. But from that, like Markkanen, lackluster. The other guy's a rookie, right? Or was he a rookie last year?
Yeah, he's a rookie. Yeah, he's coming to the league. He's 23 though. He was a senior.
And then they got 5 picks.
3 picks, 2 swaps. Yeah,
they got 5 picks. So I mean, they got a good haul for him too. I mean, Ainge did a good job cleaning house with those guys, and the players they have aren't all bad. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They could, like, if they wanted to, maybe get into the play-in, depending on what they do with these other guys they have and what their goals are. And you don't really know yet. You have Walker Kessler, who was a good player in college. You have Sexton. You have Vanderbilt, who's all right. You got Talen Horton-Tucker, who Lakers fans told you was fantastic for the last 2.5 years. I mean, they'll be an interesting team to keep an eye on. They're not going to be anything special. They probably won't make the playoffs.
They're going to tank.
If they get in, I mean, if they tank, good on
them.
They're
tanking. No shot they're good this year. They won't. They probably.
I'm not saying they're going to be good, but if they wanted to, they probably could be somewhat competitive. They're not.
I don't think so.
They're not the Pacers.
I think there's too much competition in the West. I think there's too much competition in the NBA right now.
There's a lot of competition in the league right now, and it's kind of crazy because you're like, where are all the bad teams, and you're just not finding them.
Like, I was just looking at the West, and we're talking what? How many bad teams? The Rockets and the Thunder are going to be bad, and the Spurs are going to be bad.
Spurs will be bad.
That's 3, and one of those teams. I don't think the Rockets are going to.
The Lakers.
To be bad. I'm talking like bottom of the
I'm just being a
barrel.
dick.
I know. I'm talking bottom
The
of
Lakers
barrel.
will not be fantastic, though. I said it
No.
last year. I'll say it again. Damn it! They are
Even
not.
if they,
Pat
they'll be
Bev,
better if they
Westbrook out there standing
they'll
there
be better
watching
if they
LeBron.
trade. They'll be better if they trade for like Bogdanovich or like a Turner Heald trade for Westbrook. Like they'll be better then.
I'll tell you what. Nobody better help them out. Whatever team it is that helps them out is going to be on the old shit list.
Well, I'll let you think about it this way, Sam. We'll put this perspective into your mind because I think you'll appreciate this. The Lakers are not going to be a championship contender next year, regardless of who they add. Correct? Correct?
Yes.
Would you agree with that? No matter what trade they make. So
they would have to do something pretty crazy.
Then instead, the team that makes that trade is going to be screwing them because they're going to take their picks in 27, 29 when the Lakers are definitely going to be bad. So then the Lakers
I'll tell you
what,
what,
future assets.
If they get Heald on their team and they get Turner, I'm not saying they're going to be a world-beating team, but they're going to be pretty solid. I mean,
they'll be a playoff team.
There's a lot of variables there. Is LeBron healthy? Is Davis healthy? Is Turner healthy? You know, well, let's see. They'd probably give up Westbrook. So how good is Pat Bev going to play? I think he's going to play well. How is their depth going to be? They brought in all these younger guys. How's it going to work out for them?
Well, actually, let me ask you this then, because let's say they make that Heald Turner trade. Do you think that's the best trade out there for them first?
From what I've seen, people throwing around, yes. What else have you seen? Have you seen anything else?
Well, my idea, I don't know if it'd be on the table. My other idea would be trading for Bogdanovich, Malik Beasley, and Conley, or Clarkson in there.
Well, that's a lot. That's a haul, dude. They would have to give up more than just Westbrook. And I don't know I'm not convinced Ainge is helping them out.
Well, I mean, Ainge really wants those 27, 29 picks from everything you're hearing, which is understandable because they're going to be bad. They're going to be terrible. So
I mean, I can't wait. Listen, nobody loves a funeral like me, especially for those.
There's that. Also, other rumor was the Pacers wanted the Lakers to take on Tice's contract, so you might see your boy in purple and gold.
Tice is savage, so good on him. But it would be tough to see him. It's tough. I'm disappointed that Tice didn't play that well last season. He was okay in the first round. He did what they needed him to do, but it was tough seeing him become a scapegoat. He's a good, solid, hard-nosed player.
I never thought of him as a scapegoat.
Well,
I understand.
Some people were ripping him, man.
Well, anyway, circling back.
I didn't know he made that much money. Once I found out he made like $8 million a year, I was like, oh Jesus! Like, all right, you can rip him a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm gonna list. So let's say the Lakers make that Heald Turner trade, right? Like they get those guys in, whatever. I'm gonna list all the teams in the West, and I want you to tell me, would the Lakers be better than that team? And we're gonna see if the Lakers would make the playoffs. Would the Lakers be better than the Warriors?
No.
Okay, so that's one playoff team in the West. Would they be better than the Clippers?
Probably not. The thing about the Clippers is like it feels like we haven't seen them all play together in a while. So that's like almost a team like the Nets, where like on paper you're like, wow, that team's gonna be good, but like, how good is John Wall going to be? Is Kawhi going to be the same player? I mean, how good is Paul George really? Like all those things come into question.
It's fair. Dallas, would they be better than Dallas?
It might be.
That's a hot take.
The Lakers just have like a lot of variables. Like how good is Davis going to be? Is LeBron falling off yet? Does Pat Bev fit well? Those shoot. I mean, both Heald and Turner can shoot. So that's Turner's iffy, but Heald can shoot. Those are the kind of players you need around LeBron for him to be effective. How well is Davis going to be able to shoot? I don't know. Maybe I'd say Dallas is better out of bias, but how deep is Dallas really? Like they lost Brunson. What have they done? Have they replaced him?
They added Christian Wood.
Okay, that's a good ad.
Signed JaVale McGee to be their center. Spencer Dinwiddie's going to take over as the starting point guard.
Okay, that's good. He's a good player.
Dorian Finney-Smith still, Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber. I'm missing guys. Josh Green, Ricky Jaden Hardy.
We're not that dumb, but
Luka, obviously. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Tim Hardaway Jr. coming back off injury.
We'll see. I think it's closer than you might think. It depends which team you see out of the Lakers. That's the problem. Because I love to clown the Lakers as much as the next man, but like they did have injuries last year. Davis has made a class, and he's a big part of what they want to do.
All right, Phoenix.
There's a lot of questions coming into this season. The first thing I think is how good is Chris Paul going to be? But Chris Paul's game, how well or how important is his age to that? I think his game ages pretty well. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. So will the Lakers
I
be
think
better
they'll
in
be
Phoenix?
solid. I'll
Would the
say
Lakers
no
be
because the
better?
last time those
Okay.
two teams played in a series, Phoenix beat them. So
All right, Denver.
yeah, I think so.
Denver will be
Jamal
better.
Murray's coming back. That's something to
yes.
look out for. But again, how good is he going to be? He
I thought
hasn't
you were
played
telling
in
me
a
the
while.
Lakers would be better.
No,
I was
no.
like, wait. Memphis, who's better?
That's tough. I mean, West is real deep, huh?
Yeah, and
I'm not in love
got
with that
him.
Denver team. I'm really not.
I love that Denver
The
team.
Lakers
I
might
think
be
they're gonna
better
real
than
good.
them if they. I feel like there's just a lot of teams that they could be better than. There's just a wide range of where the Lakers could be.
I put the Lakers, if they make that trade, even in the tier with New Orleans and Portland.
Good. I mean, good. Good on. I mean, I hope you're right.
Yeah. Well, the funny
I
part
hope you're
is,
right.
if you want a real laugh in another franchise, the Kings are trying to make the playoffs.
And we haven't even mentioned the Kings. We haven't even
I
thought
have-
about the Kings. And let's call a spade a spade. The Kings have done decent work. Too.
They had a good offseason.
They went out there and they tried, and we're not even thinking about them.
I know they had a really good offseason, and I've mentioned. Let's count them, Sam. The Warriors, the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Suns, the Nuggets, the Grizzlies. We'll count the Wolves in there. Pelicans with Zion back. Portland with Dame back. That's 9 teams, and then the Lakers. That's 10 teams, and Sacramento is trying to compete with them for a playoff spot.
That's
Yikes!
tough.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be rooting for them.
they had
the Kings are a franchise like I kind of feel bad for. Like they got screwed when they were actually good. Like that game was very poorly officiated against the Lakers, and then they lost a heartbreaker. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs
really good
in forever.
offseason too. They had a really good offseason.
Yeah,
like they added Malik Monk, they drafted Keegan Murray, who looks great, traded for Kevin Huerter for nothing.
Yep.
Right?
That's
free.
They still have Fox.
Still have Fox, still have Sabonis. Rashawn Holmes is there too.
Yep. Oh, I forgot Sabonis was on that team.
Yeah.
That's another guy. Like he's solid, but he's not sexy to me. Which is it's common, you know. He's not flashy or anything, but I'm rooting for him. I'll root for the Kings.
Hey,
I hope they do well.
We'll see. You can call that on the NBA talk. We can talk Celtics for the last 10, 15 minutes of the show, but there really just hasn't been much to talk about. I mean, sorry to tune into the Celtics podcast and listen to NBA talk, but Gallinari got hurt.
Oh, what you
Scared me. Didn't look great. Not an ACL tear though. ACL is intact. A torn meniscus, which we've heard everything from, maybe November could be a potential date when he returns, or I mean, sometimes they're worse, so you don't really know.
Well, the good thing about this is he tore his meniscus in August, and not at the end of March like Rob did.
True.
I mean, that was the most heartbreaking thing. I'll never forget that. And then I remember when the news dropped that he was going to come back and play. That was crazy. I remember I was at work, and I think I just finished up doing some morning hits.
He wasn't all there, but he was playing for the team, so you got to respect. You got to respect it. But yeah, Gallinari went down with Team Italy at Eurobasket. And now we're talking replacements, like who could replace him in the lineup. Gallinari out, Grant in, maybe Sam Hauser steps up into role, but another name you've heard, Sam, is Carmelo Anthony. I'd like to get your thoughts. What do you think?
Well, I wrote about Carmelo on Hardwood Houdini there, right? Jack has finally got me off my ass. I've started hitting the keys again on the old keyboard, and I'm enjoying it so far. I think that was the first one I did. Was it the first one? I don't know. Maybe
nice.
Not. I don't know. But anyways, I wrote about it, and it's funny. His stats are very similar to Gallinari, especially last season, right? Both shot about 44% from the field, about 37, 38% from three. However, their games are real different. That's the thing that you need to look out for if you're into this. I don't think it makes you or breaks you, especially with Gallinari's injury, because that's not going to be something you're hopefully going to be dealing with down the road when it's really important. But right now, it probably wouldn't hurt to bring him in, but you never know. It could disrupt the flow of things. Schroeder came in and we were all like, this is kind of cool. And then he was here and everyone was like, he can die, or maybe not that. That's all. But Jack was. And then
no. Jesus.
But really, Melo requires more of the ball to be effective than Gallinari. I mean, we watched Gallinari shoot like 100% from the field against the Celtics a couple seasons ago, and that was all like catch and shoot stuff. Like he was on fire. I think he's stronger in the role that they're going to need out of that man in the rotation, whoever it may be. And my real first article was actually Sam Hauser. So I'm looking to see if Sam Hauser is going to get some run in that role. I think that's interesting. You just signed him to a new 3-year contract. He didn't play great in the 2 summer league games he played in. Only took 8 threes, made 2 of them. But that's what they signed him for, is to shoot threes. And when he's played for the Celtics in real games, he's even, albeit garbage time, he's made the threes he's taken. Like, he's one of those guys, he shoots a 3 and you think it's going in every single time.
Yeah.
So I would prefer that he gets some run before they make any kind of signing.
Sure. That's fair enough. I'm not going to knock you on that. And I would tend to agree that I'd probably rather see Sam Hauser step up, see what he can do, because Celtics players love Sam Hauser. Like, Grant Williams
really
went on Duncan
do.
Robinson's podcast and was like, this guy's the best shooter I've ever seen. I wouldn't take anybody else in a competition over him. At the same time, I think for the role they're going to be asking Gallinari to play, Carmelo fits fine, right? If you're talking like bring him in on a minimum deal, I don't have a problem with it. And I did some fact checking. 66 games the Gallinari played last season to the 69 Carmelo played. Carmelo attempted 344 catch and shoot threes. Gallinari attempted 236. So
there you go.
But
Sam doesn't watch any games that don't involve the Celtics. There you go.
Albeit Gallinari shot 42%. Anthony shot like 37.5%. Both not bad.
Gallinari was at 38 last season.
I'm talking just on catch and shoot.
Okay. All right.
So not bad. I mean, Gallinari, obviously, I'm not going to disagree with the fact that he's the better catch and shoot player. It's true, but Carmelo is changing his game. And I think if you ask him to play that role, if anything, he's probably not saying Carmelo's a good defender, but if you're talking about asking a guy to defend the perimeter, I'd probably take Melo over Gallinari at this point in their careers, just because of their builds and how they play. But
Carmelo didn't play defense even when he was in his prime. Neither did Gallinari.
Yeah. Neither are good. Put it that. No, neither of them is a good defender. But if we're talking purely in quickness, especially coming off that knee, I'd take Anthony. Again, that being
said, I don't think it makes
Hauser.
or breaks you. And when you're really going to have to lean on Carmelo is going to be early in the season. So
yeah. And
like
give me the Sam Hauser minutes anyways. Like, I'd rather just see him.
I think it just benefits you as a franchise more to run Hauser out there, because you put your faith in him. You obviously see something in him, and everybody says he can shoot the lights out. We all know it.
Yeah.
Why not put him out there? He's not defending anybody either. Right?
And
you lose 3 inches off of Gallinari. Gallinari's taller, but
this opens up a nice, chance for Grant Williams to step up into a better role.
Yeah, but Grant's already going to have a role. That's the problem.
I know. Whoa, that's not a problem. That's perfectly okay.
No, it is the problem, because you don't want to. These guys just played a grueling season, a grueling playoffs, harder on themselves than they needed to make it, and you want to give them as much leeway as you can early in the season. You don't want to have, especially guys like Tatum, who played more minutes than anybody else last season in the league by a significant amount. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about an injury in his wrist. Like, you don't want these, not that a wrist is really a wear and tear thing like your legs would be, but you don't want these guys to have to go out there and labor. Al Horford is 37 now, or is he 36? Going to be 30. He's going to be 37.
He's going to be 37 at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want him to have to be out there that much. You want Grant to really give him relief, not, have to take Gallinari's minutes, who would be giving more Tatum relief. Maybe he'd be giving Al relief too. Probably a mix of both, but regardless, it's one less guy you have.
No, yeah, I understand that. You got Luke Cornett too, who it's not a flash name. You could potentially have Noah Vonleh if they sign him. You're gonna have guys that can step up and play smaller roles when they need to while Gallo is out. But Carmelo is a fun name, and I think he would play effectively the same role as Gallo, so I don't hate it. I don't really care. I'd rather have Hauser play those minutes, but if they do make the move, I don't think it'd be a bad one. The last thing we had to talk about, you brought it up. I think you wrote about it for Hardwood Houdini, a Bob Ryan quote on KD. Do you want to outline that?
Yeah, so on Bob Ryan's podcast with Jeff Goodman, brought to you by our good friends over there at CLNS, Nick Gelso, very good guy. He's talked to us for 2 hours, longest podcast ever with him.
It was.
They were discussing it, and Bob Ryan said, I don't want to win with that shithead, and I think he is one, frankly. I don't want to win with that guy. Screw him. Now, that is the quote you have seen flying around everywhere, but it was prefaced by he really like prefers the homegrown group. This is a good group of guys. Really, what he was saying, what we were all saying is, there's no need to break these guys up. You brought in Brogdon, you brought in Gallinari. Your team was already good. Why do you need to break the team up? And he's right. Now, going that far and saying Durant's a shithead might be a bit different. I know we texted about this briefly, and you seem to be on the side of why would he do that. Hey, listen, what are you going to do? KD has beef with those guys, man. He always is tweeting at Nick.
I know, yeah. Yeah, he does.
So
well, that's
because
because
go at him a little bit.
Okay, well, they antagonize him, and all the respect in the world. I love Nick. Respect to Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, all them. They definitely antagonize the guy. Like, and I'll also say, like, he makes himself very antagonizable. Is that a word? He's an easy target because he puts himself out there. I just don't really like.
And KD rules for tweeting at people.
Yes.
Nobody should ever get mad at him for tweeting at people. Like,
No.
It's cool. Like, more guys should do that.
And you know what? If Bob Ryan wants to call him a shithead, sure. I don't really care either way. I just disagree. Like, I just don't think that he's like, I don't know. It's just weird to see like media members going out there and calling players like, this guy's a shithead. That just seems like kind of whack.
That's what they do. Maybe not cursing.
Yeah,
it's not.
But just
it's not
go out
what
there.
They do.
Just saying Kevin Durant's a shithead. Like, that's just like why, right? Like, what's the point? Like, you can say I didn't want him on the team. Sure, but I don't know. The term shithead for me, it just like sticks out as like that's just a weird insult. Like,
really?
even calling him like if you called him like a punk or something, or like a lame for switching teams, or a loser, or like they're like a bum or whatever. I don't know. Shithead just when I saw the quote, I was just like, damn. All right,
I don't know if I agree that he's a shithead. I don't think he's a dummy, right? But I do think there are tendencies that are not to like about Durant, despite him being my favorite player that's never played for this team.
Yeah.
I get it. I get the quote. I get why you wouldn't want him here. And it's kind of a shithead move if you really want to go about it, to sign an extension, then be like, hey man, I'm not going to play here anymore.
Okay, well,
it's like, and not only that, but then you end up playing there. Then the team strong arms you, good on them, and then you have to go back and play there.
I'm gonna play.
I want to leave. You just signed a contract to play there for 4 years. Go for it.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I don't believe this. I don't believe anything. I don't really care, right? Like, I don't care that Durant requested out. I don't care that, the only part about it that's whack to me is if it is true, because I feel like it wasn't as direct as this. I feel like this was just the reporting emboldening it a little bit. The whole fire Steve Nash and Joe Tsai, that's a little bit like, come on, dude. But we don't know the exact part.
Those guys. He wanted Steve Nash gone and Sean Marks, and he picked Steve Nash, and
this is the report.
Sean Marks do whatever he wanted.
These are the reports. My devil's advocate, let me say this. Devil's advocate. KD went to Brooklyn to play with Kyrie Irving. Love him or hate him. I know you don't like him. Whatever. He went to Brooklyn to play with his friend Kyrie Irving. When the Nets turned around and said, Kyrie, we're not giving you an extension. We don't want to, commit to you long term. Which, again, whatever, that's their decision. They're a franchise. They're allowed to do that. KD's like, all right, well, that's whack. I came here to play with my friend, and then was like, okay, I want out. If he's just like, if he's going to be gone, then I want gone. Let me finish. Because I saw you about to pop off.
I wasn't sure that you were ready.
Yeah. And then your camera went out, by the way, just a heads up. And then Kyrie Irving saying, okay, actually, I'm good in Brooklyn, whatever. We'll play it out for this year. KD coming back after that. And it's not like KD is like sitting out, right? Like he's not saying, no, I'm not playing for you. Like, I'm done. Like, he's going back. And I don't want to compare it to the Ben Simmons situation, because that, whole mental health thing, whether or not you believe it or not, I'm not going to like question a guy's mental health, whatever. I'll compare it to the James Harden situation in Houston, right? Him going out there and half-assing everything until he gets his way. That was lame. Right? KD's not doing that. He's going back, whether or not you think it's awkward, whether or not there's tension, whatever. He's going back to play with the Nets because they said, no, we're not trading you. And he's like, all right, fine. So at that point, it's just a matter of him saying, I want to trade, them saying no, and him being like, all right, whatever, I'll play. Like that, whatever. Like, as much drama as there was behind it, because there was plenty, that's all it was in my head. And it was because they didn't want to commit to his friend who we went there specifically to play with. And so he wanted out. But now that it's back, they're back to normal. And we'll probably hear similar rumors next summer. But That's all it was in my mind, and who gives a shit at that point? Because he said trade me, they said no. That was the end of it, right? Like whatever.
Good on him. Good on
Yeah,
him. Good
honestly,
for the
sure.
Nets. But the trade request came. What was the news that week? That Kyrie wasn't going to request a trade, or
Well, no.
or
The first news that came out, I remember, was, and maybe the time was a little mixed, but I know the first thing that came out was a report. I'm pretty sure it was from Christian Winfield of the New York Daily News, saying that the Nets don't want to commit to Kyrie long term, and they will not be extending him right now, or they don't want to commit to a long term extension. And then I don't know how much long after it was, Katie was like, I want out. But at that point, I don't think there had been a resolution to the Kyrie thing. But maybe I'm wrong. But that's at least in my head how I
don't
assume
remember.
things played out.
I think there was something where Kyrie was going to be staying there. Because there was talk that, like you said, they weren't going to extend him.
Yeah.
But then the next thing is they were going to get rid of him because
yeah,
they didn't want to, they didn't want to lose him for nothing or whatever. They didn't think he was valuable. I don't know. I don't remember. And then it came out he wasn't going anywhere because I thought it was going to be fantastic if they got rid of him and like then they got good. Like he left to go play, then they got rid of him, and he was a prick and whatever. And can you blame? Like I don't know. Durant was like signing off on all that stuff. We all thought though. We don't know that for sure. But the thought was when they went to make a decision like that, he was in on it.
I disagree because I think they were not together, and I think again guessing. I don't know shit, but I'm assuming what happened was Kyrie. They weren't going to extend him long term, and then Katie was like, "All right, I'm out." That's what I assume. And
could
again,
be.
Now it's over with. Whatever.
It makes sense, and I don't remember the timeline that vividly, so you could absolutely be right.
Yeah, who knows?
But it doesn't really matter. They are still on the team, and that team
they've got talent.
Like the Lakers, to where they have a big window of where they could end up.
My hot take is, I said this on the Simone NBA show, and I think you're going to laugh at it because I don't think you like this player. I think Ben Simmons can average a triple-double this season.
That's not saying much.
At the center position.
That's not like ridiculous.
I think
if he plays center, he especially could, but
I think we're going to see the best version of Ben Simmons we've ever seen because he'll finally have the room to work. Like, if you think about it, this is the best group of players Ben Simmons has ever played with. Not a slight on Joel Embiid, but like Simmons needs to be in the paint. Like if he wants to be at his best, realistically speaking, because he doesn't have a perimeter game. So he needs to be in the post, playmaking from there, or have the ability to drive into the paint with guys like probably two of the best perimeter players in NBA history on his team in KD, Kyrie, plus Seth Curry, plus Patty Mills, plus TJ Warren. Like they've got a good team around him to succeed. And I think we could see peak Ben Simmons at the center position if he's willing to play that, which I think he should be, because I think that's the best position for Ben Simmons. So I'm excited to see it. I like Ben Simmons. His game is fun, and I think he could be good.
I don't like Ben Simmons, but I do think you're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong about the triple-double. I mean, that's not crazy. I mean, especially if he's given that opportunity to get the rebounds. I don't see it to be
I've said this
outrageous.
to you a million times. I'm not saying he'd be as good of a player, but if you put Ben Simmons on that Bucks team in place of Giannis, he'd win an MVP. Stand by that. I will always stand by that. That is my Ben Simmons hot take.
I think there's a mental aspect to that too.
Absolutely.
Giannis is absolutely mentally stronger than Simmons. That's why he shoots threes and
absolutely
he works to improve.
Ben Simmons would not have won a title. He might not even have been like this dominant force. He absolutely wouldn't have been the same dominant force as Giannis, but he'd put up MVP at numbers, and I think he'd win an MVP, in my opinion.
I wonder how the ball distribution will work in Brooklyn.
I assume I assume what will happen is Kyrie and Ben Simmons will probably split the ball handling duties. But if I had to pick, I'd run Ben Simmons at center, give Kyrie the point guard role, and have Ben Simmons play like a Jokic role at the post. If that makes sense.
It's not the most ridiculous thing.
That's what I assume. Have Nick Claxton as the backup center. You run a starting lineup of Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry, TJ Warren, or Patty Mills sliding down, etc. If you want to run, don't want to start TJ Warren, and then Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, or you run double bigs, Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton. I mean, the spacing would be rough, but if you have KD, Kyrie, and Seth, like, how rough can the spacing be? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are three elite shooters. So.
They have good role players, and they have Harris too.
What'd you say?
Joe Harris.
I forgot about Joe Harris. Yeah. He'll be the starting small forward. Markieff Morris, they just signed. Kessler Edwards is back.
Well, Markieff Morris did a lot of watching last year. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but don't get me wrong. It's an
he got his
extra
neck
person.
snapped. He got his neck snapped by Jokic.
He did?
You didn't?
Was
you
he? No, I know the video, but like, was he actually injured from that? Like, sidelined?
Oh, he got whiplash. He got like legitimate whiplash and was out.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yeah, you thought they were just benching him the whole season.
Yeah, I just thought like he wasn't really good. Like I know Marcus Morris is the better twin.
No, he wasn't available to play, I don't think, till like the last month of the season. At that point, their rotation was already like set. So yeah, no, he got whiplash. He got like hurt from that. But yeah. Anyways, that's all I got on my little list of topics. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I think we did a good show today. And I am impressed and proud of myself with the NBA talk that I did today. Usually I do not thrive when we are not talking about the Celtics. Usually I'm much, much better when I'm just complaining. But I think we had intelligent conversation today. I really do.
I think so. We're getting excuse me. I think it might be ESPN that just put out a note about what the Knicks offer was.
What is it?
What their final offer was. I'm trying to read the exact things because I don't want to mess it up. We can leave the show on this.
Gets to
Do you want to
make
guess?
fun of the Knicks.
Do you want to guess?
Let's see. They probably offered quickly. It will be Toppin. I don't think they would have put Randall because they wouldn't want him. Maybe they would take Randall. Bunch of picks.
So
who else on that team?
This is what the Knicks balked on a trade that included Quentin Grimes and RJ Barrett. They were like halted. But so the thing was I think they excuse me, offered or they asked for RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, 3 unprotected firsts is what they asked for from the Knicks. And the Knicks countered with RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, 2 firsts and a top 5 protected first. And the Jazz said no. Apparently. That's what Woj was saying.
See, if I'm the Knicks, I'm really like putting my foot down with RJ Barrett.
I agree, which is crazy to me.
Those trades are very similar to me.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I understand there is a difference in the other players, but
they would have moved Fournier to a 3rd team, but that's irrelevant.
If you're the Knicks, it doesn't even make sense to do it like that. You, as a franchise, you have RJ Barrett, who people agree is good, and then you want to get rid of him. The purpose of bringing in Mitchell is not to like have a slight upgrade over RJ Barrett. It's to put them next to each other.
Crazy. Yeah, that's kind of wild to me. But yeah, I mean, what would you have taken? This Cavs deal or RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, 2 firsts and a top 5 protected first?
Probably the Cavs.
Yeah,
you got a lot.
I agree.
Cavs.
I agree. I mean, if I'm the Jazz, I would have taken that over Barrett, Grimes, and 3 firsts. Honestly, I think the package they got from the Cavs is better. Although, I do think this is going to sound weird, so I'm hopefully this will come across their way. I think the picks they got from the Cavs are worse than the picks they would have gotten from the Knicks because I think the Cavs with Mitchell are better than the Knicks would have been with Mitchell, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
So they're less valuable for Utah.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
So I think those Knicks picks probably were like, okay, these are probably better because then the Cavs are probably a top 5 team in the East now, arguably on the board.
Yeah. No. I said
the Knicks
3-4. You said you went in your tiers, right?
Yeah. If the Knicks got Mitchell, I'm still not sold. I'm still not totally sold. So, anyways, that's all I got. Anything else you want to say? Sorry, I saw that pop up on Twitter, and I was like, ooh, let me check that out real quick first.
No, I mean, the Knicks are real dumb for even offering Barrett.
I agree.
That doesn't make any sense. Why? You're a team that's been bad for 10 years now. Literally, I don't think they've made the playoffs in 10 years, meaning this upcoming season. What are you going to get rid of?
Outside of 2 years ago.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They won one.
Fluke. We can call it a fluke.
There was nobody there. But how are you going to get rid of one of these young guys you have that you're trying to build around? I don't get that.
He's the first round draft pick they've signed to an extension since 1999. That's
doesn't
crazy.
make any sense. I mean,
How bad can your
bring
drafting
into-
be? Anyways, that's all I got. I think that's all we got for Celtics. And I mean, majority NBA talk today. So hopefully you guys appreciate it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. And I'll throw it over to Sam.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you're watching, you're on YouTube on Guy Boston or
We
from
did
the
it 100.
Rafters, and we hit
From the Raptors
100.
did 100.
We hit 100. Are we doing anything for that? No.
You know what we
You-
can do? We'll tease it here. We could do a Celtics Jeopardy for 100 subscribers.
Oh,
We should do a
could
Celtics, Jeopardy. That'd be
But we're too
fire.
lazy there, right?
No, we'll
We'll
find people.
see.
We're at 101 subscribers.
Look at
Shout
that.
out, you
People
guys.
like us. I've been working to lose some weight here over the last since we started. So, you watch us, you get a little extra. If you're on Guy Boston, you also get our pregame streams once the season starts back up. So be sure to tune into those. It's a lot of fun. We have Tim and KJ hopping in with us as well. If you're listening on whatever streaming service, make sure you subscribe or follow. That way you get the pods if Jack doesn't tweet them out. But if he does, they're coming from @FromRaftersPod on Twitter. And if you want Jack's articles, you can follow him at Jack Simone NBA. He's doing all kinds of stuff. He's at Heavy. He's got the Simone NBA podcast, right?
Simone
Big
B.
guest coming up there. I don't know if you're going to say or not.
Fingers crossed. No.
Fingers crossed.
We're
we
still
will-
working on it. We're still
All right. Well, if you really care, go find out. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA. I'll be putting out some Hardwood Houdini articles there, right? Jack's got me off my ass. That's our show for today. Bye.
Taco, come on.
Taco's having some fun here.
That is bogus. These guys are